Today for Kind of Funny Games Daily, you're going to get a Games Cast. It's the Pokemon TCG Pocket Review.
Hell yeah.
I cannot wait for Dragon Age the Veilguard continuation of Nick the Dwarf. That's right. Me and Andy are getting back into that streaming room. We are doing more Dragon Age. We are doing more Veilguard. We are seeing what is going to happen to the one, the only, Nick the Warrior Dwarf. Of course, as I already said, if you're a Kind of Funny member,
I didn't know he was a warrior.
Has to be. Yeah, he's got that shield. He throws that shield. Ting! It's awesome.
I love it. I love the way he looks so much.
He does. And then we went back to the British accent. We bopped around on what we're doing.
I love
for
the
it.
American accent.
Me too, but Andy sucks. Today's Greg Way, like I said, is up. It's called Prove Me Wrong. And thank you to our Patreon producers, Delaney Twining and Carl Jacobs. They were brought to you by Phasmophobia and BetterHelp. We'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin the show with what is and forever will be the Roper Report.
Barrett's trying to fix the screen. Barrett's trying to fix the screen.
Time for some news. 5 items on the Roper Report.
Fucking Christ of Baker's dozen!
You hanging in there, Barrett? We saw the thing go. No? Okay.
It's fucking Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, my dudes. Roper Report begins with number 1, the PlayStation 5 Pro review roundup. As you can see, we have a PlayStation 5 Pro. We have 2 PlayStation 5 Pros. Timothy has been playing his extensively, and I want his thoughts. But before then, we will, of course, ask the Super Chat a question. Are you in or out on the PlayStation 5 Pro? I need your answers. Yes, no, and why. Show your work.
The why.
All right, this is algebra class. Show your work in your Super Chat so you can be part of the conversation. We will turn our eyes to Michael Heim at IGN.com. Which always makes me smile.
I know.
Michael Heim, IGN.com, who gave the PlayStation 5 Pro a 7 out of 10. Considering that the PlayStation 5 generation has largely been described as, what if the PS4 was faster? It's a little difficult to get all that excited about a console that promises to be a faster PS5. The PS5 Pro delivers on that for sure. And if you find the standard PS5 leaving more to be desired from a technical perspective, it's an intriguing prospect. Running Pro-enhanced games in the new performance modes gives you essentially the old fidelity modes now targeting 60 frames per second, sometimes with extra improvements. Sony's AI-powered PSSR upscaling tech is certainly impressive when playing games that have been updated for it, giving console players the same type of image quality and frame rate improvements that NVIDIA's DLSS has delivered on the PC side in recent years. You're not entirely free from compromises because you still have to choose between that new standard and even better looking fidelity modes at 30 frames per second. Though, I found going with performance an easier choice. At $700, it's not cheap, so you have to really desire that visual upgrade, knowing that it doesn't transform the gameplay experience at a fundamental level. And to be fair, Sony never said it would. So as it stands, the PlayStation 5 Pro isn't essential, but it is certainly nice to have. Then, another friend of the show, Timur Hussein, over at GameSpot wrote, powerful on paper, ordinary in action. What Mark Cerny and the engineers at Sony proposed to do in the PS5 Pro, I always want to say PlayStation 5, but I know they've already introduced it in the article at that point, so I don't need to. But it gets in me.
I'm a PS5 guy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But I mean, the first saying or PlayStation 5 Pro reveal has been achieved to a degree. The gap between how a fidelity mode looks and the way a performance mode plays and feels, let me try all this again. The gap between how a fidelity mode looks and the way a performance mode plays and feels is smaller. Having a technology like PSSR and a machine learning chip in consoles is also impressive. But for now, all of this is only exciting on paper. It's not enough to recommend over the alternative cheaper options. And ultimately, there is still a choice to be made between better visuals and performance, just with a less noticeable trade-off. I hope that one day the PS5 Pro really shows off what it can do to elevate games. But for now, this is the console you should get only if you've got cash to spare and just want to know you have the latest version of the console. For everyone else, a standard PS5 will do just fine. Timothy Robert Geddes, you are the tech tower of Kind of Funny. You are the one who cares the most.
Say, yeah.
Who?
Me, Andy, and Raj to an extent.
No.
But Raj, all in different ways, though.
No.
All in different ways.
No.
Because we have
They
Andy,
don't have a home theater.
Andy has the PC, right? Andy's the PC enthusiast, I would say. Roger's the tinkerer. All right? Roger likes to get in there. Roger wants the best deal you can possibly get. He's in it for the love of the game. right?
Yeah.
And then there's me. I am definitely the home theater side of it all. And that does include a PC setup with all that and integrating it together, which is a nightmare and a half. But again, it kind of goes back to, if you love this stuff, you're in it for the troubleshooting, which just means you're a sick person. And I'm very sick, Greg.
You are.
So I am the perfect audience for the PlayStation 5 Pro. And, talking to Tam about this as well, I feel like in some ways he owns all the consoles. Like, he cares about this stuff, and he cares about the games specifically that he likes. He knows how they feel. So playing them on an upgraded system, he can actually tell the difference. And I feel like that's the biggest thing to talk about, is like, it's easy to look at it and be like, hey, it looks exactly the same. But when you know how a game feels and know how a game looks, you can tell the differences. And to Tam, he was saying it's not really worth it. And I kind of am split on this, because I feel like to put a number score on this thing, I think is very silly at this point.
Okay.
I think putting numbers on consoles in general is a little bit weird, because what exactly are you reviewing with it? And we can always find different things to put on it and like what score we'd give. And in a lot of ways, I'd be like, all right, fine, I give it a 10. The PS5 is awesome to me. It works how I need it to, and games run very well. So I'm like, cool, I'm happy. I don't love how it looks. I feel like the Pro.
I don't like the vent thing.
I feel like this is my favorite iteration of the PS5 thus far, but still don't like it.
Sure.
But whatever. Getting in the weeds of that stuff. But I'm just talking about like reviewing, putting a score on it. I do think it's way easier to talk about who is this for and who is this not for, because I do think all of that exists. I think it very much is for people that have a nice TV that do not have a PlayStation 5. If it's your first time buying a PlayStation 5 and you have a nice TV, I would recommend getting the PlayStation 5 Pro. If anything, as an investment for the games to come. This is only going to be more and more worth it over time.
Of course.
I will say at this point, doesn't really seem worth it, because there is no flagship title that's coming out alongside it to show off how special this is. But when you look back at the experiences you had, and I can say this from my experience, you can listen to any review that we've done of a PlayStation 5 exclusive game, I always hate how I am torn between the cinematic fidelity mode or the performance mode.
Yeah.
And there's always some concessions made. There's always some issues. To be fair, review process, I don't think this is ever really going to change. Like, oftentimes we don't get full access to every mode we want. And if we do, there's weird issues here or there, whatever. But I am the type of person that switches back and forth between the modes to see the difference. And I, at this point, very much value 60 frames per second. 30 frames per second is rough. But seeing the differences in the ray tracing and seeing the differences in just the overall resolution and quality of the cinematic and fidelity modes, it's a heartbreaker. I really am like, I want the best of both worlds. And I feel like Insomniac's done a good job of either at release or soon after putting out that kind of in the middle mode, right?
Yeah.
That dumbs things down, but you're still getting the 60 and you're still getting some of the fancy features. And I do think some ray tracing goes a long way to enhance. What the PS5 Pro does is just kind of gets rid of that. And for those specific games, there's a mode now that you just legitimately get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
There's also modes that are just even fancier fidelity and stuff, but I think it's clearer than ever.
Fidelity Pro.
That's not the way to go. That is them being experimental. That is them pushing things. They're just like, look how fancy this can look. You know what I mean? Them having fun with it. But clearly you should go with this one mode that is like recommended for most people. And in the majority of games that I've played with actual PS5 Pro patches out so far, which is very limited, by the way, for our review process, most of them literally say this is recommended for most people with the PlayStation 5 Pro. So it's like they know. And I like that, because I feel like it's the first time that it does feel like, although there's choices, this is the one. This is the one. And while that's not exciting for games that we played already, that we're not necessarily going to, I don't think.
But the next game, the new thing.
Next game. And I think that to me, I'm like, yeah, I know the problems I had with Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet and Clank and other Insomniac games. But I now know I'm not going to have that problem next time. And to me, I'm like, cool. If you're investing in the PS5 for the first time, I do think it's worth making this jump.
Well, yeah, because I think at that point we're talking about the conversation of the PlayStation 4 Pro, which when PlayStation 4 Pro launched, it was when I was like, oh, I'm happy with my PlayStation 4. But when my PlayStation 4 died, it was, well, I'm going to get a PlayStation 4 Pro. Yeah. So if you're entering the space, why, and you have the income to pony up for it, why not set up to have the best? And especially for me to jump in, right, as somebody who didn't go to the event like you did, you were Cinderella going to the ball. I had to stay here and mop the floors or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's actually not how Cinderella worked, but you understand. Sitting down and booting up stuff on this, I was not shocked because obviously the whole point is to look better. But playing Rebirth yesterday on the giant TV out there in whatever the PS5 Pro mode, booting up Spider-Man just to swing around, I was like, God damn, this does look way better.
Yeah, and so then moving on to PS5 owners, should they upgrade? I feel like I can't recommend that necessarily.
And 100% to jump in of like, saw both of those, like, damn, that looks good. And I'm excited to see, I want to work on my Dragon Age Platinum eventually and see when that update happens, how this looks on there. But it's not enough where I want to run off and buy it or even bring it home. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Spider-Man looks great and Final Fantasy looks great. And playing Dragon Age on NVIDIA on the sponsored streams we did, oh man, that looks great. But it looks fine, and I like my PlayStation 5 at home, and I'm not going to rock the boat, let alone right now as a father. I feel like I need to shell out $700 for a system I don't need.
Yeah, totally. It's again, there's a lot of complications to it. I think most due to timing. If there were bigger releases that were taking advantage of it, first party or even third party, I feel like the third party releases coming out now that we don't even know if they're supporting it or not, or Dragon Age just coming out, I think is a great example of it. It does not have a PS5 Pro patch, correct?
I mean, it's one of the ones they said was going to.
It was going to, but I mean, like, I don't think it's out, or I don't think it's even I don't think we even have a date on it or anything. Do we?
I don't remember that.
That would go a long way, even of like, cool. I do believe that it is just around the corner that this conversation is going to be null and void, because I imagine that by January, any game coming out on PlayStation of consequence is going to have a PS5 Pro enhanced mode. And then it's like, all right, cool, that makes sense. But even then, I do not think that anything you see is going to convince you, oh, I already have this thing and it's worth $700 now.
Sure.
At this time. I think that could change when Ghost comes out, but probably not. I still think that it's a very steep upgrade for what you're getting. Unless you're tech-minded and unless you've had the experience I've had of being frustrated having to make the choice, then it is worth it. It is totally worth it, because you're going to play the new games and not have to worry about that at all. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is, I think, the best example so far of the potential of that game. Was amazing, clearly one of my game of the years.
Yeah.
But it had a lot of issues with performance mode, fidelity mode. The differences, the drop in quality when you went to performance mode was high. And this brings that back and makes that not a problem at all. And now just makes the game even better, because now the game's beautiful and runs well. So if we're just going to get that going forward, great, mission success, right? But also, I feel like people that expect this thing to just make all their current games better, it's just not going to work that way.
Yeah,
it just simply is not going to work that way.
Chat, I can't find if they've ever confirmed when the PS5 Pro patch is coming for Dragon Age the Veilguard. If somebody could keep on that for me, and then you could put me into kindoffunny.com/you're wrong, that'd be great. Show your work, give me a link so I understand, but I'd like to know. I was hoping that was like imminent, right? Because this is out tomorrow, the PlayStation 5 Pro.
Yeah. For some reason, I was under the impression that it wasn't going to be in this first round of upgrades, but
interesting.
I could be wrong. And again, for the review process, there were certain games we got patches for, like the Final Fantasy VII one. They told us wasn't going to be out, but then it actually ended up coming out a little early.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of last night playing it. But also, a lot of my thoughts on the PS5 Pro are based on the event I went to, where I got to see the actual side by side of these things. And
were you not impressed with it in your?
No, I was very impressed.
House,
but the games that we were able to play here, it's like, cool, Spider-Man. It's hard to sell people on Spider-Man looks better. It's like, oh, this doesn't matter. It's like, just looking at it for 5 seconds doesn't matter. But when you're playing it for hours and there is more cars, there is more reflections, it's all the little things that add up. Everything's sharper. I think the thing for me is, if you have access to a PS5 Pro at all, boot up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, turn on the versatility mode, and look in the distance and read a sign. Any sign. You can actually read.
You can see it.
You can see it, and you can read what it says. It is sharp. Go to any other mode in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's just not the
garbled.
Case. So it's like, it's those little things of like, yeah, does that matter? Not really, but it also does. So you don't need it, but it is very nice to have. It is definitively better. Like, I don't think that there's any question. It is better.
Sure, of course. But you're talking about being marginally better, right?
Totally.
And then, obviously quite a hefty price point on something you already have.
Yeah. But the conversation about, we are now closer to these console games being equivalent to high-end, not highest-end PC games.
Of course.
And I'm like, that's a great place to be when you have the control of a console and the output into day one titles of PlayStation. For gamers, I think there's an incredible value here for PlayStation gamers. And I also think a big thing about the ecosystem is I've gotten really into remote play this year in various ways.
Hell yeah.
Whether it's Steam Deck or the Portal or the Backbone, like just all of it. And yeah, guess what? It's better with PS5 Pro because it's the game
Wi-Fi's
being
better,
streamed, not even just Wi-Fi, the quality of the game's better.
Okay.
You're getting ray tracing. You're getting things on your phone.
Oh,
you get what I'm saying?
okay.
It's just
I see what you're saying.
so it's like the game looks better when you're playing because it is just another screen for you. But like, it's the little wins that add up. And if that adds up to $700 for you, I think that makes sense. If it doesn't, I totally understand.
Well, I asked you to super chat at the top of the show and tell me if it adds up for you. And we got a lot of people in here, all right? Chase Lay says, yes, I got to wait a couple weeks for the 30th anniversary edition, though. Great idea. Great call. If you were lucky enough to get one of those, come on. That was a master stroke by PlayStation, if you recall. They put out the thing with Cerny talking about this. Everybody was like, what the fuck? That's horrible. That's stupid. And then like, what, less than a week later, they're like, and here's the anniversary edition. Everybody's like, fuck, I got to get that. Got to get that.
And very few did. And I'm so upset it wasn't me.
Joey Radstone super chats and says, I'm out to save money for Switch 2 plus launch games. And that is always part of the gamer arithmetic.
Yeah.
When can you get in and do this? And I think what you say makes so much sense of not having a launch title, not having something that's like, oh, you got to get it. And you do wonder if they're working with Rockstar and GTA 6 will have something like that. Or whatever the next big, I mean, obviously Ghost of Yotei. Fuck.
Hey.
Yotei. Obviously, that's going to look markedly better and amazing on this. So you wonder what those, hey, you're about to jump in and spend 60 hours in a game, maybe more. This looks best on it. When will that be? Because that was one of the ones to keep cutting you off. Sorry, I know you're opening your yap trying to say something. But it's that idea of like, I've had this one here and I haven't even bothered to bring it home because I want people to play it on the nicest TV out there. And I was reviewing Life is Strange. I'm working on all these other games that have no improvement. So it's like, even if I brought it home, I wouldn't be getting the experience I need out of it.
Yeah, I think that clearly, like talking about like it not being aligned with a new game. I've been saying this since we were just talking about the rumors of PS5 Pro. Like PlayStation just doesn't see this as them trying to get everyone to upgrade. They know what this product is. It's just an iterative solution that they're going to see as the standard going forward, but it is not, they're not trying to position this as a must-buy item. Like, I just think that this is getting something else out there into the market that over time will sell and will make sense for people. And I think it already makes sense for some people. And I feel like that is a very small group of people. I am one of them. But even then, like I'm saying, it's just like you're talking about Life is Strange. It's like I'm also playing some games that don't take advantage of it and doesn't affect it at all. And I don't know when the next game that is coming out that is going to, but that's a PlayStation
Indiana
problem.
Jones, Great Circle.
I mean, yeah, honestly, like that real talk, that probably is going to end up being the best way to play it on a console.
More super chats for you. Kebabs, of course, chimes in and says, no, PS5 has 40 frames per second. PS6 will do all this stuff. So he's going to wait for the next iteration of the PlayStation, which is understandable. I apologize. Then we got Shaggy Sasquatch. Someday, maybe after probably after I upgrade someday, maybe after I upgrade my TV. But who knows how bad money is going to be after Era last night. Oh, Era is what you're trying to, I don't know, whatever. Dear Slickslet became a member for 13 months and says, I'll likely be in for the Pro when Kingdom Hearts 4 and Final Fantasy 7 R3 come, but out. And I can afford around that time. Maybe for Metal Gear Solid 3, if that is tax return is good next year.
Me, baby.
That's a great, actually, fucking call out, Dear Sixlet. But otherwise, I'm not much of a fidelity person. Shit, fuck.
Yeah,
I did not think about that. I did not think about Metal Gear Solid. Oof. That's going to be a looker.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of a game that you know would have a cinematic mode and a performance mode, and I want both.
It's one of those where, again, for me personally, with this machine, get this New York trip, which you should come hang out with me on Saturday, see me, Kevin Smith, Jared Petty, Jason Mewes. Once that's out and I'm back home, take this home and play Final Fantasy, because I need to play Final Fantasy for Game of the Year. And again, yesterday, an hour of that game, I was like, damn, this looks really fucking good.
It's a looker.
This looks really fucking good on this thing.
Yeah.
Sab K says, should this what the launch PS5 should have been, given the promises made on the launch version of the PlayStation 5? I skipped away there, but that was pretty much it.
No, I don't think so. I feel like we talk about this stuff so often on these shows, but the jump from PS4 to PS5 already, I think, is the type of, in a different level of scale.
Yeah.
But it is similar to the PS5 to PS5 Pro of just like, yeah, you could play God of War Ragnarok on your PS4.
EasyGuard916 says, I caved. Price is ridiculous and I am the problem. Now I can play Shadow of the Erdtree in 60 frames a second. Can't afford a house anyway. ... CJ Splitson has a question. Do you think Death Stranding 2 will use Pisser because Guerrilla is using their own solution that seems better for their engine?
I mean,
It has to.
Well, that's the thing is I feel like they might just use their own thing for their end. I don't know what did they do for Horizon for what they did for the PS5 Pro updates. It's up to the developers. And I think that is a good thing at the end of the day, that they get to actually use the tools how they want to. And talking to one of the lead tech designers at Insomniac, he was saying like, yeah, we're including this experimental, and the word experimental is even in the description of it for the cinematic pro mode or fidelity pro mode or whatever it is, the newest, fanciest 30 frames per second mode for Spider-Man, knowing that is not going to be how people necessarily should play the game, but it has all them pushing the tech forward, them trying different things that they haven't been able to do before, using whether it's Pisser or the other toggles available to them. So I think that's cool that there's some fun being had there, but I also just think it's good that they're able to make the choices based on their own game, even looking at what Rebirth did, making the versatility mode, as well as there's other modes as well that I look at. I'm like, I don't understand why anyone would want this smooth mode, sharp mode, whatever. It's like the versatility is where it's at. But yeah, I think that it's good, but we had so many conversations leading into the PS4 Pro of, is this going to leave other people behind? Is it going to cause problems for the devs? Did you remember that? Like,
of course.
How much of a discourse that was. And we're just at a point that I feel like those conversations still happen. They happen a lot with the Xbox Series X and S and so many different similar things, right? But I feel we're at a place where this is just standard. Even consoles are more similar to PCs than they've ever been, of games need to be able to work at this level low or this level high. This is just another level higher. And in fact, I almost feel like this isn't so much another level higher. This is just actually able to do all the things at once of the previous highs.
Okay, fair enough. I want to give you 3 more pieces of feedback and super chats on this question, all right? Trevor says, personally, no, I won't be getting a PS5 Pro, but that's only because I mainly play Xbox. Also because Switch 2 probably next year, and I'm already happy with my PlayStation 5's performance. A similar boat to me, where I'm happy enough with PS5, where I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything.
Poppin' House in the chat says, Tim is that one kid with all the cool toys, LMAO. I have really in my life prioritized the cool toys.
Yeah.
I prioritized the home theater, the tech, and all that stuff. And I do think there's a lot of people like me that they wake up and they get excited that phone upgrades are happening and that there might be a new controller and TV tech. And I watch YouTube videos breaking down LG's OLED panels from this year versus that year and the differences and all that stuff. Like, there's just an investment that I have in that. And I feel like it is for the people like me that, like, yeah, when you have the nice toys, the more nice toys you have, it just makes the whole experience better when they are all actually working together. There's many examples of that not being the case. You can have all the nicest things and they don't talk to each other the right way. Ecosystems get all messed up. There's tons of examples of that.
Crazy.
But I think the PS5 Pro is a perfect example of a console that fits right at home with an LG OLED and with a home theater receiver and just like all the being able to have variable refresh rates and using the HDMI 2.1 and all of the logos on the box, Dolby Atmos and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, if you care about that stuff, this is literally for you.
Yeah.
$700 is a lot, but it's not a lot when you compare it to other things in that realm. So again, I think it's a niche product for now, but I think it'll become a mainstream product very soon.
Well, there you go, everybody. Thank you, Timothy, for your in-depth analysis of the PlayStation 5 Pro. And thank you for your service of being the kid with the cool toys. For now, I'll remind you that we're a bunch of cool kids who need your support because we're an 11-person small business. If you love what we do here, it would mean a lot if even for a month you popped over to patreon.com/kindafunny or youtube.com/kindafunnygames and picked up a Kinda Funny membership. Of course, with the membership, you get all of our shows ad-free, the ability to watch the afternoon podcast live as we record them, and of course, you get a daily dose of me, Greg Way. Plus, if it was your first time subscribing, you get all that stuff for nearly a decade because there's like a million exclusive things we've done there. And there's physical items, and there's the happy hours where you get to call and talk to us. But I digress. You're not using any of your membership benefits right now, so here's a word from our sponsor.
This episode's brought to you by Phasmophobia. The genre-defining horror game is finally out now on consoles. Yes, that's right. The phenomenon that is Phasmophobia has finally entered console early access on PS5, PSVR 2, and Xbox Series X and S, with full cross-play support across all platforms from day one. Join the already almost 20 million players on Steam, including our very own Snowbike Mike, and get ready for some spine-chilling ghost hunting with up to 3 friends. Experience the horror as you investigate immersive haunted locations and gather evidence to help you succeed. With several different ghost types and unique traits, no ghost hunt is ever the same. Making sure you work as a team and utilize your equipment is the key to making it out alive. It's time, Ghost Hunters. Phasmophobia is out now on PS5, PSVR 2, and Xbox Series X and S. Gather your friends and prepare for the terrifying ghost hunts that await. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. I want to take a moment and say thank you to Barrett. Barrett always goes above and beyond to keep all of our shenanigans going. This month is all about gratitude, and in addition to Barrett, there's another person we don't get to thank enough. Ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything, and in this crazy world that isn't easy. Therapy helps you find your strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. You can get out of your negative thought cycles and find some mental and emotional peace, and it can give you the tools to find more balance in your life. Some of my best friends use BetterHelp and love how helpful it can be for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/kindafunny.
It does seem, according to your wrong, I have the Omega Nerd, Jay Fulcrum, and the Omega Nerd again, that it looks like the Dragon Age, the Veilguard. What even the Dragon Age? I'm like my mom saying the Nintendo. Dragon Age, the Veilguards patch should be tomorrow.
Okay.
There isn't one that's tomorrow. Well, that actually worked that way. Maybe that's why I'm fucking it up. But it's like you don't have like a headline of it, right? But it's like there's a patch coming this week confirmed by BioWare, and then it's the tweet about it. But the tweet that I see doesn't say anything about the Pro. But then it's like there's the one talking about the Pro enhancements, looks like tomorrow, and then it does. The PlayStation blog does have PS5 Pro 50 plus enhanced games available for launch November 7th, and it has it listed there.
Good.
So
yeah, that's awesome. Again,
nothing's
this
been
goes
delayed.
back to what I'm saying of just like, I believe in this hardware and I believe in their support of this because they've proven it to me already with the PS4 Pro, and I think we're just even in a better spot now.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be the definitive console way to play games for the foreseeable future.
Number 2 on the Roper Report, Nintendo Switch 2 will officially be backward compatible with original Switch games. We're going to read Adam Bankhurst at IGN's report, but Super Chats, I need to know, how much does this move the needle for you? Is this a big deal? Did you care about your library coming over with you? Let us know. Back to Adam Bankhurst. Nintendo has confirmed that the yet-to-be-announced Switch 2 will be backward compatible with the original Switch games and feature Nintendo Switch Online. Nintendo president shared the news during the company's corporate management policy briefing, revealing a bit about the successor to 2017's Nintendo Switch. Nintendo wrote on Twitter, "This is Furukawa. At today's corporate management policy briefing, we announced that Nintendo Switch software will also be playable on the successor to Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch Online will be available on successor to Nintendo Switch as well. Further information about the successor to Nintendo Switch, including its compatibility with Nintendo Switch, will be announced at a later date." End quote.
I love when they speak so funny about things like the successor to the
most
Nintendo
corporate
Switch, or like
speak.
Untitled sequel to Breath of the Wild, or Untitled Breath of the Wild sequel. I just love that stuff. It's so funny to look back on. But yeah, this is amazing news. I do not think it's a surprise at all. We've been talking about this stuff for the last year or so, if not more. And a lot of people were doubting it. Me and Bless have talked about this a lot on Games Daily specifically.
Yeah.
And the amount of times people were like, Tim, like, weird Nintendo decisions, like, it's not going to be backwards compatible. I'm like, y'all need to look at what Nintendo's been doing this generation. Like, there was no way that it wasn't going to be backwards compatible with the Switch.
Hope so, yeah.
And there was no way that they weren't going to continue the NSO moving forward into this. So this is great news. Like, these are the right moves. This is what Nintendo needs to do. They need to continue the success that they had with the Switch. Major success. The biggest success we've ever seen. But what I love about it is looking at NSO and looking at the value of NSO, of how it's built over the years, where you look at it and you're just like, just let me buy the games and all that stuff. And I get there's still a lot of validity to some of those complaints, but now you look at it and the majority of games are there on NES, SNES, N64, Genesis. Like the list goes on. There's still some omissions, Barrett. I'm still thinking about you. Okay, one day we're gonna get donked up. Today's not that
Get
day.
double donked up on a Tuesday.
But we're so close. Like all jokes aside, it's like we have quite the library available on Nintendo Switch Online. Game Boy Advance. Like again, still some omissions. Where are the Pokemon games? We also know where the Pokemon games are. That's you know what I mean. That's when the Pokemon's anniversary is coming up. They'll do something at some point. But anyways, they clearly are trying to invest in making it a value. Nintendo Music being added. Yeah, that could be seen as a weird Nintendo decision. There's some parts about that are, but there's also really awesome parts about that do truly add value to Nintendo Switch Online. So them continuing that service to the next console is great because this is a Nintendo acting modern. And it's silly to say modern for something that was modern a generation ago for all the other guys. But that's how Nintendo rolls by design. Like Nintendo defaulting to HD not happening until the Wii U era, which then essentially take two with the Switch, right? That was them a generation behind that. Well, there's still majority of games 4x3. You could play them 16:9 if you like use the right cables and all that shit. But like that's wild. That's what I do, man. The composite component, crazy stuff. But now the generation they're behind on is
about that.
The online account ecosystem and digital game library. And we saw PlayStation be able to, from the PS3 to PS4 to PS5, but really it was the PS4 that was able to, from the jump, have that going where your PSN account has always mattered. Xbox is the best example of this.
Of course.
You know, going all the way back.
Yeah.
But as a Nintendo fan, I'm incredibly happy that I believe in them for the first time, that
they're making the right decisions.
They're making the right decisions with my account.
They're making the right weird decisions. They're still making weird decisions because they're Nintendo. Here's an alarmo, but they're also not cutting their nose off despite their
their core console stuff, and to me knowing that my backlog of Switch games, my library of Switch games, that I would say the greatest library of games consoles ever had. I have all of them right there still on the Switch too.
Yeah.
What's this mean for re-releases? What's this mean for patch updates for the Switch 2 and all that stuff?
What does
I don't
it mean
know.
for cartridges?
What's it mean for cartridges? I mean, looking at
Kabobs
Nintendo's
writes
past,
in and she says, I hope this includes the physical carts.
looking at Nintendo's past, it's going to. That's what they do. Look at the Wii could play GameCube games. The Wii literally had GameCube controller ports. Like Nintendo does value that type of stuff, and they don't want to shoot themselves in the foot. Like when it comes to these type of choices, like they know how many people buy physically. We know how many people buy physically, and we know
Dozens.
that because when people are on the Nintendo side, that's not true.
Kidding,
I know, but it's important. But it's important to look at the NPD reports, and we look at the sales in a month of video games. And when Nintendo puts out a new game, how high on that list they are, and that doesn't include digital.
Sure,
that's just physical. Like,
sure.
That shows the dominance of the physical market for Nintendo fans.
So it's got to include cartridges.
I think it definitely
has to have
does.
a cartridge slot on here.
I mean, even the Game Boy Advance was compatible with Game Boy Color games and Game Boy games. It looked silly,
yeah, but it's cool.
But it worked.
It worked.
You know,
that was cool.
I very much think that the cartridges are going to work on the Switch too.
They have to. And one of the things we glossed over there, Nintendo Switch Online, working right.
Well, that's what I was just talking about.
Yeah. But I know we're talking about backwards compatibility and all that, Justin. I know you were just talking about it. For me personally, I think that's the way I play Nintendo Switch, I think that's the coolest. Where I'm excited for Switch 2 games, but I love the fact that, we don't have to go through and buy everything again, Mario World for the 19th time yet.
Exactly.
And I know you talk about this. I'm sorry. I phrased this wrong.
Okay.
I'm saying what matters to me out of this is this.
Yeah. I mean, all of it's great. Like,
of course.
this
is all a win for consumer.
This is how this should work. Right. And this is how it works on PlayStation and Xbox. And we look at Nintendo and it's like, thank God we were at a place that it's working now. And there's a lot of other information that came out that I would like to talk about. Barrett,
I would love for you to talk
bring
about
up those
While he does
there.
that, do you want me to go through some of the super chats? Because people are talking about this.
Yeah, go for it.
Michael Graff super chats and says, I am probably more likely to get a Switch 2 because it's backwards compatible. I have a huge backlog. I think that's great. And I love the idea of these games you maybe didn't touch or just had or whatever, redeemed, didn't do anything. Benny B. Good says, I don't have a Switch yet, PlayStation all day. But when I was about to get a Switch, they announced the Switch 2 unofficially. So I'm still waiting, but am more inclined to get a Lite until the 2 comes out.
Well, okay. A couple things I want to break down there. One is definitely wait for the 2. Like I think that the Switch 2 is going to be such a monumental leap for just quality of life things and the little things that matter to make the Switch 2 modern with where we're at. We'll talk about some tweets that I think are even more important there. But Switch 2, I think, is the one to wait for. On the flip side of that, the Switch 1 is going to get a price drop sometime soon. I feel like Nintendo wants the Switch to be the highest selling console of all time. Nintendo in the past have always put some type of price cuts on their systems, and I think that they're going to get the Switch 2, Switch, especially if the Switch 2 could just play Switch 1 games, which we now know, like they're going to treat it, the Switch Lite and the Switch OLED, as entry points into that ecosystem.
Sure.
So yeah, I think there'll be significant price drops. And then the next thing, the Switch Lite is a fantastic system. I love it so much.
Every time you let me touch that, I'm like, this is nice.
It's really, really, really nice. It's so light, and having the controllers actually like part of the hardware, so you don't get that weird like loose Joy-Con feel and all of that stuff. Like it is just such a beautiful, nice little portable system. The only issue is it's not OLED, and that's a huge issue for me. And there's a solution now, everybody. There's a solution. Taki Udon. He's out there making OLED screens for the Switch Lite.
Oh my god.
I have mine on the way.
Oh my
allegedly.
god.
Allegedly.
You're a psycho. I love it.
10 minutes to install, they claim. I'll keep y'all
Give it to
updated.
Kevin. Kevin will get it.
No, I want to do it.
Okay, well, Jesus.
I want to
I'm
prove
gonna
how
find it.
easy it is.
Okay, goddamn. Sorry, man.
Yeah, but I'm really excited about it.
Final one to close this out. It's Topher 9000 says in a super chat, 100% this is a great move on their part and makes my gaming library happy. Tim, back to you about some of the other stuff they talked about.
Yeah, man, they put out a lot of good stuff here. Like everything they're saying, I'm like, thank God. So here we have, during their financial update call, they actually put together a pretty nice looking deck. Nintendo normally just like, it's just blocks
Shits
of
out the
text
information.
that are just like, what the hell, and other people need to do it. So it's nice to see this, but they have a slide here talking about strengthening relationships with software publishers, and everyone's here. It's like Smash Brothers Ultimate. Like you look at this, and it's just a full page of logos of all of the different publishers and developers that they're trying to work with on the Switch 2. And seeing this warms my heart because I remember this slide for the Switch 1 and I remember this slide for the Wii U. And it's just been more and more to the point here where you look at it and you're like, man, this is exciting. Like I think that there's going to be more belief and support from third parties on Nintendo than ever before.
Yeah.
Just like we've seen
and they
on
know
Switch.
the numbers, man.
And they know the numbers. They know the magic that's there. And if the Switch 2 can be powerful enough to be in that conversation that we were talking about earlier of if the PS5 Pro is the high end, if the Switch 2 can even be the low end or maybe even higher than the low end, just a little bit,
yeah,
we're going to be in really good places for the third-party games being here so that the Switch 2 could be people's sole console. I don't think the majority of people, I think people listening to this show are always going to be a dual console household.
Fair enough. I can't believe looking at this thing that Gung Ho still has this vibrator as a logo. I don't think about Gung Ho often, but you know what I mean? Ever since they debuted that thing, it's like, that's clearly a fucking vibrator.
That is...
Why are we still committed to that?
I don't know.
You look at that logo and it doesn't scream video games. It screams one of the pink, one of the stink. You know what I mean? Vibrating away.
My God.
I'm just saying what I see.
Yeah, you are.
I'm just saying what I see. All right. These are observations. I'm a journalist.
But looking at this is exciting to me because if you remember the Wii U era when they had this and it was like a fraction of the logos, and then they had the Wii U debut E3 and it's like, hey, you get Arkham City. You get Lego City Undercover, a lot of cities.
A lot of cities. Right? We loved cities at the Wii U launch.
And it's like, okay, I guess
Zombie U.
And then Zombie U, exactly. I feel like this to me is different. This to me says you combine this with everything Square's been saying the last year of like, hey, no more of this exclusivity. It's not working for us.
Yeah.
We want to go multi-platform. Like, I love the idea that Final Fantasy 17 might come out on Switch 2 alongside the other systems. Like, that's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So exciting stuff there. A couple of other slides too, if you could bring those up. Because there's just a lot of good shit here.
The future outlook, expanding the Nintendo IP.
Go to the next one.
Nintendo Switch software will also be playable in the discussion. Strengthening development resources. Nintendo Cube, 1UP Studio, Mario Club.
Right, sorry.
Here's a list.
This one. Thank you.
Many series titles are showing growth on Nintendo Switch.
We talk about this a lot, but it is wild to see the actual numbers here. These numbers are comparisons to Wii U, which obviously Wii U and 3DS though, so that is big. But like, look at Kirby, look at Metroid, look at freaking Xenoblade, man. Like,
show me Animal Crossing just for hell of it.
The Switch is a powerhouse with in terms of sales and being able to either revive franchises or get franchises to a new level. And I think the Switch 2 is just going to continue to do that.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, it's just exciting times.
For you especially, Mr. Nintendo, you've been there for the bad times, you've been there for the boom times. This is, you want to see them do this back-to-back generationally, right?
And I truly believe there's so many things that came out yesterday, but one other thing was titles announced for 2025. Like, we still have Metroid Prime 4. We have Pokemon Legends ZA. Those are two games of major consequence, right, for the Switch. Like, those are key titles for the Switch 1.
Tim, please, it's Pokemon Za.
You're right.
Let's get some Za, bruh.
And then, filling out the rest of the year with things like Donkey Kong Country Returns, and then a plethora of JRPGs, which are sellers on these systems. Like, this is good. Nintendo, I think, is in a very, very, very healthy spot, potentially the healthiest they've ever been.
Tim?
Yes.
I have two questions for you on this Nintendo stuff. You ready?
Yes.
Michael Graff gives you an easy one. Tim, what